Have you received a large inheritance and you have no idea what to do with it? Or are you someone who's going to be giving a large inheritance and want to leave a little more instructions for the people once you've passed? In this video, I'm going to be discussing 10 important things you should do if you have come into a large inheritance. And make sure you stay to the very end. Well, I will provide you with 5 responses to give to people who will ask you for money, or worse yet, give you advice on how they would spend the money if they had inherited it. You'll definitely want to hear these. Hi, my name is JP Geisbauer, founder of Centerpoint Financial Management. I'm a certified financial planner professional, a certified public accountant, and this channel is dedicated to helping diligent savers maximize their lives and minimize taxes as they transition into retirement. Inheritances can come in all shapes and sizes, but if you've inherited a large amount of money or property, then it is important to take the necessary steps to not only preserve what you've gotten, but maximize the effects it can have on the life of you and your loved ones. Now, a bit of a warning. The first 3 that I'm going to be talking about are touchy-feely. So if you're someone who's only concerned about the financial aspects of this, please consider forwarding to the timestamp here. But I'd encourage you to stick around because you might learn something interesting, and it might give you some other ideas that you weren't necessarily thinking about. Number 1, get closure. Human relationships can be very complicated, and they can be even more so when money is involved. Maybe unresolved issues remained at death. Maybe the death was sudden and you didn't get the opportunity to say goodbye. Or maybe you barely knew this person and are surprised by the size of the gift that they provided you. Or maybe the relationship that you had with this person was fraught. And now that they've given you a bunch of money, you're a little uncertain about how you feel about things. Whatever the case is, if you were given this money and you're having a hard time processing it or feeling unsettled about it, speak with someone about resolving these lingering emotional issues. Make the distinction between the money that is in your hands today and what you can do with it for you and your family versus the emotions you're feeling about the person and the situation. Find a therapist who focuses on grief counseling and can help you process what you are going through. The time and money you invest in this process can be invaluable, and it will help you avoid making emotional decisions that may have poor financial outcomes. Number 2, keep it quiet. Simply put, don't talk about it. You don't need to know what everyone in your life would do if they had the kind of money that you inherited. You don't need to hear everyone's hard luck story about how, if you just gave them a little bit of money, would completely turn their lives around. You also don't need to get the investment sales pitch from, the second cousin twice removed about the amazing investment idea he has in crypto or artificial intelligence or whatever the new investment flavor of the day is. Keeping quiet about this will protect you from the outside influences. The quieter you keep this, the less outside noise you'll have to hear about it. And this will allow you to process the event in your own time. And this leads us to number 3. Give yourself time. It might sound funny, for lack of a better word, but inheriting a large sum of money can be a daunting experience. It comes with a lot of responsibilities. If anything, inheriting a significant amount of money should provide you with a sense of relief and afford you with the luxury of flexibility. Don't be in a rush. If you're already comfortable, act like you didn't inherit anything. Live the life that you've been living with the comfort that you have more. Take a minute. Your direction will become clear in due time. Don't rush it. Number 4, understand the tax consequences. Most inherited assets receive a step up in basis, meaning that most of the tax consequences associated with inherited assets are borne by the person who is giving those assets away. But there are several instances that you should be aware of. If some of the inherited proceeds are salaries or uncollected bonuses, uncollected rents on rental properties, retirement plan income, deferred comp income, and proceeds from an installment sale, then you'll need to get your arms around how those will be taxed in your hands. One of these areas that should be of a particular focus and that are quite common are retirement plans and IRAs. There are specific guidelines around these accounts and the time frame that you will have to recognize the income associated with them. The IRS recently released some new guidance with respect to this, and I'll be doing a video on these in the next couple weeks. So please subscribe to this channel so you'll be notified when this video is released. You'll also want to get an understanding of how the portfolio income will now be reported on your individual income tax return. If you inherited rental properties, make sure you understand how that activity will be reported on your individual income tax return. If the portfolio generates substantial dividend or interest income, make sure you understand what kind of impact this will have on your tax return going forward. You'll want to get your arms wrapped around this so you don't get surprised with a nasty tax bill the next time you go to file your income tax return. Number 5, fund your emergency savings. There are generally a handful of things that people will do as part of a general financial plan. You'll likely want to do the first things almost immediately. And the first of these is creating an emergency fund, or topping yours off if you already have one. What is an emergency fund? This is the cash you should have available if you lose your job, you get sick, or have any other unforeseen event that will take you out of the workforce. Having this cash available will give you some wiggle room and some room to breathe. It's generally recommended that people have 3 to 6 months in an emergency fund. Post-COVID, I've heard of people having up to 12 months in this particular fund. So decide the amount of cash that you want to have in your emergency fund and set that aside. Number 6, pay off debt. After creating an emergency fund, you'll want to pay off any outstanding consumer debt that you may be holding. Now you'll want to make sure it makes sense given the interest rate you are paying versus the risk-free rate you could earn on CDs or a high-yield savings account. Put together a list of all of your outstanding debt. This list should include everything: home, car, credit cards, personal loans, student debt. Rank this debt with the highest interest rates at the top and the lowest interest rates at the bottom. Start by paying the most expensive balances off first and make your way down the list. If you're able to pay it all off, then congratulations, you are now living a life debt-free. If you're only able to pay a portion of it off, your monthly cash flow will increase, and the inheritance will have an everlasting impact on your financial well-being. Number 7, review the portfolio. If you inherited an investment portfolio, you're going to want to review it to make sure that there are no significant concentrations within it. Concentrations can be in either a company or in a sector. If the benefactor was an executive for a specific company, or if they worked for a high-tech company, or if they invested in high-tech stocks, you may want to consider diversifying these concentrated positions. There's an old saying, concentration builds wealth, but diversification preserves it. Sometimes people will hold on to a stock position because they don't want to pay taxes when they go to sell it. So don't necessarily mistake a concentration for an investment conviction. It might just be that the position did very well and that the person didn't want to sell it and trigger any income taxes associated with it, knowing that they were going to get the step up in basis. So again, review the portfolio for any concentrations and try to correct those if you can. Number 8, incorporate the assets into your financial plan. Planning on starting a new business? Or are you thinking about retirement or getting close to making work optional? Have you been saving for that once-in-a-lifetime vacation, and now this finally provides you with the funds to be able to do it? Maybe this sudden wealth has provided you with the opportunity to do all of these things. Incorporate these assets into your personal balance sheet and get an understanding of how these assets will affect your personal cash flow on a go-forward basis. Also, create an asset allocation that works best for you. As I've stated earlier, because of the step up in basis, you may be able to reposition this portfolio with little to no income tax consequences. So now that these assets are yours, use them accordingly. And if they are investment assets, make sure that you reposition the portfolio so that it aligns with your long-term goals, risk tolerance, and cash flow needs. Number 9, craft your legacy. Now that you have gone through this process, you may have a new appreciation for what a legacy is and how you can leave yours for other people. Maybe you want to begin thinking about gifts you can leave to people in your life or the institutions that you care about in order to provide them the same gifts that were provided to you. Or maybe that you have more money now and more flexibility, you can begin to assess the impact that you want to make in your life and on the lives of others outside of a particular job. If you haven't put together your estate planning documents, or if it's been a while since you reviewed them, now would be a great time to do it, given that you have this newfound wealth. Doing so and planning ahead will be instrumental to crafting your legacy. And finally, number 10, get financial help. If all of this is confusing or overwhelming, look for a financial advisor to help guide you through this process. Given the complexity, you'll likely want one who is either a CFP, CPA, CFA, or all three. You'll also want one that is fee-only and a fiduciary. I did a video on the 10 questions you should ask before hiring a financial advisor. I'll have a link to that video at the end of this one. Now, as I promised earlier, I wanted to give you 5 answers that you could give to people when they either ask you for money or give you their opinion about how you should spend yours. Now, the goal of these responses is to politely end the conversation and stop the person from asking any additional questions. So with that in mind, here are the 5 responses. Number 1, the money that I inherited is in a trust and can only be used for very specific purposes. Number 2, I have to make this money last my entire life, so I can't risk giving any of it away right now. Number 3, I promised myself I'd be very disciplined with this and not make any decisions until I've determined my financial goals. Number 4, I'm working with my financial advisor on the best way to manage these funds responsibly. Now, if someone is still pushing you after these 4 responses, then there is really only one other response that you can give to these people. And that's response number 5, and that is silence. End the conversation, get off the telephone, leave wherever you're at. You don't owe anybody any explanation for what you're doing. So if you've provided 1 or all 4 of these responses to this person, and they're still continuing to ask you questions, then you just need to leave. You don't owe them any explanation. So your response should be effectively silence. Here's a link to that video I mentioned earlier, the 10 questions you should ask a financial advisor before hiring one. Thanks for watching this video. If you've liked this content, please hit like or subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.